Hey, what's going on, everybody? Right now, I'm working on finishing up the part for what number is this? 4.8. Okay, and I've done my first revolve move, which honestly I was able to get like a lot of this done. I was able to get the overall size of the object done in just a revolve, including the hole down the center, but perhaps you'd want to cut this hole down the center using the extrude tool also, which is perfectly fine. I just wanted to talk to you guys about putting the holes around the top. So I've started a sketch already on the top surface, right? Let me show you how I did that. I say sketch, and now it's asking me for my plane, so I'm going to select the top of that base, right? So when I look at this thing like that, you can see that my sketch plane is down there. Okay, so from here we need to take a look. The drawing says that there is a bolt circle with a 2-inch diameter, and then we have these 1/2-inch holes 90 degrees apart from one another. Okay, so when we go to create our sketch, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create that bolt circle, okay? And again, that dimension there was 2 inches, so I set that to be 2 inches. And then I have my bolt circle, which is going to be directly above, directly to the right, below, and to the left. Notice that when I come directly, say to the right here, there's a little dotted line that shows up, and that lets me know that I am aligned with that other point, okay? So I can say 0.5 here. So when I come across here, notice it snaps right there, and then I can okay, 0.5. Then lastly, one down here at click 0.5. Okay, and then I click check. I'm going to shift and 7. Then I go through and I start to extrude, and I want to just make sure that I'm selecting. See, this center hole is separating out my individual pieces. So I'm going to select all of those. Instead of adding, I'm going to remove. And instead of saying adapt, I'm just going to say through all. I'm going to say check. Okay, so here's my 4.8. It's done. Okay, now we're going to move into drawing the drawing itself, right? So again, I've been able to produce this object with one revolve and one extrusion. Here's a quick little peek of my revolve move. Okay. So anyways, let's create a drawing. Okay, so I'm going to hit the plus and I'm going to say create a drawing. Now, you're going to run, because this is going to be a circular thing, we really only need 2 views. We're going to use the front and the top. Because this thing's going to be taller than it is wide, we're going to go back to the Onshape existing templates, and we want to select ANSI A portrait inch. Okay, and now this creates a drawing that is vertical, up and down, versus horizontal, like in a landscape mode. So here's my part studio. I'm going to bring my part in. It's asking me to do this in 1/2 scale. I think that that's really too small. That object looks pretty small on our page here. So I'm going to change my view scale from 1/2. I'm going to scroll up to 1:1. Okay, and I think I can fit this whole thing in here. We're not going to do an isometric for this one. So we're going to create that view, and we're going to create our top view. And those are going to be the only 2 views that we need for this. So let's set up our drawing. So we're going to double click on one of the title pieces here. And I'm going to name this 4.8 revolve tool object 1. And remember, you have to use the revolve tool at least once in this activity here. Okay. The other thing that we're going to need is we need to turn on our scale label. I'm going to click check. We also need hidden lines. Okay, so I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say show hidden lines. There's my hidden lines there. I can do the same thing in the top. There are no hidden lines in the top though, but you can still turn them on. And then if they don't show up, then there were none there to begin with. So beyond just simply dimensioning this, we need center marks and center points. So for center points or center marks, we're going to select this, and we can start to select our different holes. Okay, and again, center marks show the center of a circle, while center lines show the center of a cylinder. We also need to draw the center lines to or the marks coming out up here too, all right? And in order to do that, we're gonna go to the 2-point center line. And similar to before where we had a snapping action, we were dropping these in here, there's a snapping action that happens also when we hit the corners of this object. So I'm gonna select the center from left to right. Notice it automatically extends beyond the object for me. So I can start on the object, go through, and it automatically extends beyond. So my top view center marks are done. Okay, so when we move on to the front view, technically you could use the 2-point center line for some of this stuff. For instance, the midpoint of the center line comes up fine. We can see these snaps, and that's directly in the middle. But here, these holes, they don't really have something that's in between. It just says I'm basically starting on a line and ending on a line. So see, you can see my center line there, but notice it's not centered between my hidden lines. It's not even straight. Okay, so it's a lot harder to do that here. So there's another tool that we can use, which is up here. It's called the edge-to-edge center line. All right, so this only really works, again, with cylinders. But you can select the 2 lines that you want to put a center line in, and it will automatically drop one in there for you. Okay, you could also do that, again, with this vertical component by selecting this hidden line and this hidden line. And we can stretch that thing out so it extends beyond the object because that hidden line stopped there. Okay, and then that kind of fixes that right there. So at this point now, we have our center lines, we have our center marks, we're ready for actual dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to hit D for dimension. I'm going to dimension the outside circle. I am going to dimension this circle here as well. And I'm going to hit escape and double click on this dimension. And I'm going to write typical. Okay, typical means that these 4 circles here are the same size. You could even, if you wanted to, write x4, which means times 4. You could even do both perhaps. Okay, so that now has made it so that I don't need to dimension these 2 circles. All right. Another thing, I forgot my bolt circle thing. Here I can select 3 circles in the same point and it will create this bolt circle. I can dimension that at 2 inches. I can dimension, let's say, this hole between here and here. I can dimension, so typically you do not want to dimension to hidden lines. So I can dimension to that hole up there. I don't really want to do that down here. For these 2 things, I could either dimension down in my front view, or I could continue to dimension the circles in my top view, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, so there are my 3 dimensions. Notice that I have all of my dimensions outside of my object, and I don't have anything crossing over each other, they're in a nice, neat order. So we've already listed all of the hole diameters. The only thing we need to list now is the height of this object, okay? So again, when we go to create dimensions, we really want to start with the small dimension first. We're going to center that dimension. Then we're going to go to the bigger dimension. Again, we're going to center it. You should not be putting this dimension, up towards the top. It should be in the middle. Okay, and it should be outside of your smaller dimensions. And then my last dimension is going to go from there to there. And again, it's like in the middle. And they're stacked outside of one another, okay? And there's no reason to like crush them in. You know, you can give yourself a little bit of space there. And that's it. So we really want to avoid double dimensions, you know? So here we're not doubling up the dimensions. We can tell that like this hole here, this half-inch hole goes all the way through. We can tell that these half-inch holes are cut out too because of our hidden lines. So in the end, it's going to look something like this. And again, we're going to go up to the here, say print. And then you can go through and you can save this object as a PDF, and then you can attach this to 4.9. Okay? All right, great. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.